take a look at our okay, so it's everything.
Yeah, he's butting up against it. Go ahead.
Mountains shake at the sound of just one name. Over all, Jesus reigns. I know nations bow, mountains shake at the sound of just one name.
Good? I almost sometimes feel like I don't need the microphone, but I don't know about y'all, but I love watching them worship God. A few things you can. I'm kind of surprised they asked me to start talking first. Make sure everybody gets a chance. But, camp for me started about a year ago. And we talked to the youth for a good month and a half about preparing yourself for camp and what that means and how to get in the right heart set to worship God. And like I said, for me, it started a year ago. Last year, I went to camp for the first day, and then I felt I had work commitments that I need to make sure I handled, and I went back every night, and God worked on me enough, and I told myself then, that's not happening anymore. God, you want me at camp, that's where I'm going to be. With them, it's where I felt I was supposed to be last year. And the hardest thing for me to do then was to get in my car and go home the next night so I could be at work the next morning. But my commitment started then. So we are back and back with the youth about making a commitment to what you want to get out of camp. Why is God sending you to camp? Why do you have the opportunity to go? I hope they have expressed some of their appreciation for our church getting into camp, because it's through the church and everything we do as a church that provides them with these opportunities. But oddly enough, that Monday, I had a friend of mine from Homer post. His son was going to camp for the first time, and he posted a picture of our youth group 27 years ago to the day, getting in a van. Well, we're actually at our youth camp, but we're still in a van up here. So I was 16 in that picture, looking at the picture, realizing that I'm going to camp now with the youth. So you never know where God's going to put you. You never know how He's going to use you. You never know what He's going to do with you. We also don't know how He's going to bless us, right? So I don't want to go too deep into camp and to how hot it was, the walking you had to do, the line for lunch and breakfast, and how hard it is to stay calm when you're standing there and you watch 50 kids run past everybody to get in first. And got some guys up here, or the 8 guys in the bunkhouse. You ever smell the inside of a gym? I will say this, I talked enough about deodorant this year that I did not have to spray anybody walking out the door. So, I I'm very glad that they took that to heart, because I had a bottle of Febreze ready to go. But we were fortunate. We had a pretty big area to sleep in. We didn't have to share it with the church. Although we didn't have control of the thermostat. In the middle of the summer, that's not a fun thing, but that fan worked pretty well. But talk about commitment. And like I said, my commitment started a year ago to camp. And when we're presented with opportunities to do things for God, whether it's something in the church, whether it's camp or whatever, a lot of times we'll say, yeah, we'll help. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll take care of that. But are we committing to it? There's a difference, to me, there's a difference in saying, yeah, I'll take care of that, versus committing to do it. And that's what we were asking the youth to do, to commit to experiencing camp. We go to camp to get rid of everything in our life that shouldn't be there and truly have an opportunity to worship God without interruption. Over the course, there is usually some drama and some things happen. That's normal over the course of camp, but it's to get closer to God. And through that commitment that I made a year ago, I learned a lot of things about myself. I tell them every time I go to camp or on Wednesday nights or whatever, I'm put in this position for God to work on me just as much as it is for Him to work on you. And if we can't learn from each other and help each other along that walk, I think, there's things we need to discuss. But to be able to sit there and watch God work in anybody's life, much less a youth and somebody you know, somebody you share a bunkhouse with, or somebody you see all the time on Wednesday nights, or whatever the case may be, is a blessing that I can't even begin to put into words. I got to witness two people that I know of for sure say they wanted to rededicate their life, and one make a professional failure. So, me being on the other end of that at youth camp when I was 16, I had really no idea about any of those things. And to see it come full circle is God telling me I was in control then. I'm in control now, and I will be in control in the future. We just have to commit. We have to make that commitment, whatever God calls us to do, however He calls us to do it. A blind commitment. Yes, God, I know it's going to be a week in the heat. I know I'm going to be in a hot room full of guys all week long, but you want me to do it, God? I know you've already got to take it care of. And we didn't even notice it. There was a couple of days where it was overcast and it felt like 90 instead of 100. That's a huge difference, right? So little things. We're sitting out by the lake watching it, and just the breeze coming by, and you get comfortable. Just little small things that you almost don't really understand until you sit back and you look at it of God saying, hey, I got you. I got you. And there's one thing I really kind of want to discuss. We talked about music. I'm surprised we didn't get a monkey song. I don't even know if we're doing that, but look, let me tell you what, that's a sight to see, okay? That's a sight to see. But it's a song that they played in the mornings to get everybody awake and their blood moving and to pump and jump around. But the band we would sing a song talking about God, who God is and what God can do. And then we would sing a song, not necessarily a song committing to follow that, but worship, and more of a worship song to God. And after the first song, the leader of the band, the singer, what's his name, Tom? His name is Tom? Tom would say, if you believe this to be true, meaning what we had just said about God, then what are you going to do about it? Basically asking, what are you going to commit to do? Because you just said you know this is true about God. So, okay, what are you going to do about it? Now, every night, probably around 9:30, we had our church group time where we sat down and kind of decompressed from the day and discussed things that were happening. And I asked the youth a question, and I said, this is what, and I that little saying that I just said from the band, I said it again. I said, we need to ask ourselves a question every night. Every night, every day, without fail, we need to ask ourselves, how are we living? Are we living like we believe it's true? And are we doing something about it? Right? So, that's for all of us. What commitment are we making to God to say I'm going to do what you want me to do through faith that you give me the strength to do it. So I'm personally very glad that I made that commitment last year. I was here to help and wrangle a little bit, but I think God had big blessings for me before I even set foot there. So I want to thank y'all for the opportunity. Guys, thank y'all for putting up with me when I fuss at y'all to go to sleep. Because believe me, at 1 o'clock, you're still telling kids, hey, it's time to go to sleep. I can't speak for the girl side because, of course, I wasn't in there, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the time with the guys. But I guarantee you sleep with somebody in the same room for 4 nights, you kind of get an idea of where they're going and where they're coming from. So it's also an opportunity for us to talk on a level that you don't get to talk at church. You know, we're coming in, we're all tired, we're all hot, we're all getting ready for lunch or supper, and you just talk about stuff. So I really appreciate it. I really felt that it was 150% where I was supposed to be. And you'd be amazed what God does in your life and what He showed you when you commit to doing what He actually did. So thank y'all again.
I learned how you can forgive one another and don't follow the wrong road, and how you should obey one another, and how you should trust in Jesus and forgive your sins.
Hello. There we go. I'm not going to do nearly as good as Mr. Hubert. Where's he at? Over there. But, I don't know. It was good. It felt pretty normal right up until the end there. When Gabe got me to do a bunch of stuff. You did pull me. Thank you. And what was his name? Russell? Russell? Yeah, he was awesome. He's so cool.
You'll never see anybody with as much energy as Russell had.
He was great. He was very good. I don't know how to put it. I'm not good at talking good, you know? Shoot. Okay, so it was pretty good.
Now I'm going to sing another song called Death Doesn't Rest It. If y'all would stand.
Your love made a way to let mercy
life and death.
To And what we want will heaven bring. Everlasting life with Him. There we will rise to meet the Lord. Then sin and death will be destroyed, and we will feast in endless joy when Christ is ours forevermore.
So first off, just thank y'all for what y'all have done as a church to support us in going to camp each and every year. Some of the fun things I'm just going to bring out because of the support of what we had with some extra money, we were able to do some things called
Bazooka ball.
Bazooka ball. How did I forget the name? You get to shoot the kids. It's really fun.
Yes.
But no, it was fun. We did bazooka ball and we did archery tag. And so basically you are shooting at each other with some foam balls, so it doesn't hurt because I got out there, it was fun. And just they showed you such good sportsmanship. When they were out, they were out. Now, when I got in there, I didn't understand the rules that you couldn't stuff your pockets. So I did. Because bending over to get those balls was really difficult. So I stuffed my pockets so I was ready to fire. But anyway, and then the archery tag, even the refs was a little amazed with how the kids wanted to play the game. They were like, we haven't done it like that, but sure. And they just showed just such good sportsmanship playing with each other and playing that game. And we appreciate your help in that. And I like that those 2 days we had our group as a whole together doing something. So where other times we were spread out across campus, and which was still fun, I like the time of unity that they got together and just enjoyed each other during that trip. And so that kind of stood out as far as their unity. But each night, and you'll hear like all the music that we've done, and I know that we might be doing an overload of music this morning from what we normally do on a Sunday, but music is just such worship and just brings the message across in a different way that might heal your heart and just bring something out that you might not listen to any other way. And so music is just important in worship. But each night, like with our group devotion, as we are together as a church, you know, just seeing the growth in each one and different ones, different things. Like there were some that, and some aren't here today, but that went and wanted to had question after question after question that we talked one-on-one about, and then as soon as we got into there, they were like, can I pray? And she's never prayed before, and she didn't really know what she was supposed to do or what to say, but she was like, hey God, I'm new with this. And just started praying for the first time in her life out loud in front of people. And it was just amazing of how they just stepped out of their comfort zones and did some of those kind of things. You know, of where God's pushing them to be a better person in school, to show God through them of what they stand for. And I don't want to take that away from the statement of how each one has just a different growth of where God pushed them this week and opened their eyes to realize their purpose of being there and where He has a service for them. Okay. I think, is that all? You asked me to say that other? Okay, so I'm good. Who's next?
I don't know. Okay. So I learned at camp that God can work in like many different ways through people. Like what my mom said, this girl in our youth group, he worked very well with her. And Miss Lori, the best. Always loved her car rides. We had very deep conversations in there. She was helping through a lot. And camp was like a place to get closer to people more than ever, because I can tell that I've gotten closer to a bunch of other people.
Okay, so y'all all know, well, y'all might not know, but y'all might have an idea that worship is my heart. Music, that's just who I am. I play the drums. I've always wanted to stand here and lead worship in front of a congregation. That's just what I've always wanted to do. So at church camp, they had the worship leaders, the band, anytime they would go up, they would be so prepared to sing and open into the songs. And then after the very last song, they would just close and say, okay, we have finished singing our praises to the Lord, but now we're going to go into a different time of worship where we sit and listen, where we sit and accept the word God is giving to us. So one of the nights, the pastor, he was very good. He was just great getting into our teenage minds and hearts. And so he would just open up, and at the end he said, okay, I want you to stand if you feel that you are saved and you want God in your life, even through the messed up times. And there were kids that stood. Then he said, okay, now stand if you know you're saved, but you've done hard things that you don't think you can be forgiven for, but you still know that God is your Savior. And there were kids that stood. And then lastly he said, now stand if you know without a doubt that God is your Savior, that you are saved, and your friends know you're saved, but you want to shout it and you want to encourage others to know that you are saved and that they need to be saved to go meet the Lord one day. And that's when I stood, and I just felt God just touching my heart so much that I just wanted everyone to know that I was saved, and I have been since I was 9 years old, but I'm not ashamed of it, and I just want everyone to know.
Alright, so I could tell, like, the last day, God moved so much. Like, people were crying, just singing. Like, they were singing and then they broke into tears. Like, it touched them that much. And one of my favorite times, the most beautiful thing I ever hear, seen anywhere, is when we're singing worship songs and the people that were singing, he kind of like stepped back from the mic and started, like, everyone was playing, but you could only hear the people in the crowd singing. And it was such a pretty, it was so pretty, and it was so joyous, and it was so, like, you could just feel everyone's emotions. Like, it was amazing. And last night, our teacher, she told us to, like, share our testimonies. And the things that some people have went through, I can't imagine going through, and God never gives someone something that they can't get through. And there was this one girl, she said her testimony, and then she was just like, I I felt terrible. I felt like I was too dirty for God to love me. I felt like she felt like she was just too low to even have God to even love her or give her forgiveness. And when she realized that, she said that God will love you no matter what you've done, what you've said, or what people say about you. That's the greatness of God. It doesn't matter who you are, what people say about you, what you've done to people, what people have done to you. It doesn't matter. If you give your life to Him, you're gonna get saved. And that's amazing. I remember like everyone, whenever they would say their testimonies, everyone would go rush to hug them, to comfort them, to say, I'm here for you, I understand you're going through that, and I hope that it gets better, or I can't believe how strong you are for dealing with that. And it's amazing. I mean, you could just see, and like whenever Rihanna said how he told people to stand up, every night he was like, stand up for like this or that reason. And every single time people stood up, it was like one person stood up and then it was like tons and tons. It was like, it was amazing. And like, I have never felt, like last year when I went to camp, I understood everything that I was being told, I heard it, but it didn't touch me. It touched me this week. One day was more than anything. One of my friends, they had a lot on them, and they didn't want to live a certain way anymore. They didn't want to be that person that they were, and they were just so done with everything, and they had this big burden. And I was like, you can talk to me, but if you don't, go talk to my dad. And they did, and after that, they spent all of the worship service and most of our church service with our church group. And when they came back, he gave his life to Christ. So I was so proud of him because he was so happy that he finally got that burden off of him. And I think that's what God does. If they find someone that they can feel comfortable enough to talk to, you won't have the burden after because you've given it up to Him. So, glory to God.
I don't want to step on Raina's message, what she was saying, so I didn't say some things about hers, but because she and I talked that night, and I just wanted to, well, you might make me cry. But one of the things that she said was, I go to school and they know that I go to church. They know that, that's what I do. But I want them to know me for more than just going to church. And so that's what I just want to emphasize to each and every one, that I just hope that y'all got something out of, camp, or even something today that urges you to go to school, because it's fixing to start, whether you like it or not, and show people that you are more than just a church goer, that you are a child of God, and that each of you are loved, and you can stand out. And don't be discouraged or afraid to stand out in your schools. Okay? Amen.
Now we're going to sing another song. This one's called Graves into Gardens. Now, I want the youth right here and up here that gets this next part to clap like you did at camp. Okay? Now. And once y'all figure out what we're doing, I want y'all to join in. Okay? So this is Graves into Gardens. Let's stand.
You've got now. Give us just a minute up here.
I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's
Audrey come up and say a few words.
I was contacted last year by Pastor David to go to church with the youth. And honestly, the first thing that came to my mind was, there is no way I'm doing this. Well, I sat in my house, I started thinking about it, and there's a reason that God does everything. Through last year, I have a very dear friend through going to church last year, Jessica, and this year I got closer to Sharon. And for me, camp was not just about getting the kids there, making sure they were safe, and getting them home. That was a big part of it, but it was also seeing some of them grow from last year, because most of them that went last year went again this year, and honestly, more than half of the ones standing up here, I can honestly tell you last year went because it was fun. This year they went because they knew they needed to get right with God. They knew they needed a closer relationship with God. Not only did the kids know that, I knew that. Usually I take, well, both years, I took my car, I took some of the girls with me, and Gabe this year. And I always consider my childhood very sheltered because I always had my parents, had my brother. We never went through really dramatic things like some of our kids do, some of the other kids at camp do. And I think one of the biggest assets that we can give to our kids, not just my kids in my family, but to other kids in church, is to show them that even as adults, we go through things and we're still relatable to what they're going through. That just because you're going through it doesn't mean you're alone. You just have to find, sometimes you don't even have to find another physical person to talk to. Just go talk to God. Find a quiet place and talk to God and let Him know your troubles. We did with bazooka ball and archery tag. The staff that did the Bible studies for the kids, they're amazing. They're really a blessing. Pastor Gary he's phenomenal. He reminds me a lot of Pastor David in the fact that he can relate to the kids. He doesn't get up and say, okay, this is how it is, this is how it's going to be. He gives stories behind what he's saying. He gives examples, even of his life. He talks about his life and things that he did that were not necessarily what they should have been, what God wanted them to be. Y'all, we have some great kids in this church. We really do. We had a word on the car ride, and it was really an honor and a privilege that y'all trusted us with y'all kids, and it's even more of an honor and privilege that y'all trust us as the adults to come and say, I need to talk to y'all. Y'all don't know how good that makes us feel when y'all come and say, I need to talk to somebody. Y'all just don't even know. It's a blessing to know all of y'all. I love y'all.
I just want to talk about, like, Lane kind of mentioned it because we were in a class together, obviously. But Russell, he was our group leader, if that was what you would call it. And I don't know, I just find it very, like, heart-touching what he did in his process that he had of getting things out of us because he asked us to be very, very vulnerable. And it was just weird because it was odd questions that you really wouldn't want to answer appropriately for because you'd feel different or wrong for it. But just seeing like the other people also being as open as you were, it was a lot because you're surrounded by a lot of other Christians when you're at camp. We call it the bubble. And now the bubble's popped, so we have to continue using our knowledge from it, but I don't know. And just like throughout the week, I had a lot of alone time to sit and think about a lot of stuff. So a lot of things sat with me very, very much. Like one thing that Miss Lori had said about how like Christianity, it's not a religion, it's supposed to be a relationship. And that just stuck with me so much because it's so true. That it's not meant to be a specific thing, it's meant to be you and God and just y'all together. And it just was a lot for me, but yeah.
I love church camp because, I mean, you're there and you know what you're there for. And it's easier to be yourself at church camp than it is like when you're home because obviously you don't want to be judged in the world we live in today. You feel like you're going to be judged by everyone. And at church camp you can just kind of be yourself and be like, you know, talk about what you want, you know. And so it's kind of what Rolling always talks about. Well, like Lily said, you're in a bubble, so like, but you just need to like pop that bubble when you get home, so you can like, go and like spread the word to everyone. Even though it's really hard, and I'm working on that. So yeah, I guess that's all I can talk about.
Some embarrassment. I want to share with y'all something that my daughter came home with.
Get her a mic.
No, y'all can hear me. She told, we talked about what she got, you know, the experience at church camp, and one of the things she said to me was that she wanted to be a better person. And that is not going to just influence her, but everybody around her. And I will tell y'all, my baby is a different person since she's been home. And I can help. Some days she's working a little harder than others, but she's working. And what that does is that influences everybody she comes into contact with. So, we're out.
Hi guys. So I made it. At first, when I went to camp, I was just thinking about, oh, it's gonna be fun. I wasn't thinking about God, and I had this in my brain. I was having someone tell me, and then I started paying attention. And I felt God calling me. He was telling me that I need to come back with him. And then the third day, well, like the second time they caught up, they talking about, oh, if you want to be saved, and then they said, if you know that you're saved but you want to come closer to God. I stood up. And then I was talking to Steve, and he told me it was like, that it was kind of like a phone. You unplug and you plug back in. And I realized how unplugged I was. I didn't even have the charger plugged into the wall. And but then I started praying, and I realized I needed to come closer to God, and camp helped me do that. It helped me realize how far away I was and how much I needed him. Because I think we all need him, but and not only did it do that, but it helped, I think, us as a youth group, it helped us become closer. I mean, we knew who each other were, but we didn't know each other on a thing of like, yeah, we're friends. And I think that's one of the best things that it helped do. Anyways, camp was pretty fun.
So now we're going to sing the called Song in My Soul, and let's just really reflect on what everyone has been saying. So let's stand and sing Song in My Soul.
There's a song in my soul, and I feel it stirring in me. This I know for sure, that your love has got me flooded, and your mercy never ending. I give my song to you. There's a joy in my soul, and it rises like the morning. This I know for sure, that your grace is enough, and your promise never breaking. I give my song to you. For all of your goodness is like a well running over. Oh, my soul, it sings for you. For all of your goodness, I will love you forever. Oh, my songs I sing for you. Yes, all my songs I sing for you. There's a hope in my heart, but it bright in the darkness. This I know for sure, that I will look upon your face, forever dwell in your presence, and all I sing to you. For all of your goodness is like a well running over. Oh, my soul, it sings for you. For all of your goodness, I will love you forever. Oh, my songs I sing for you. Yes, all my songs I sing for you. Let my life be to you a symphony, singing out holy, holy. All my days, every single breath I breathe, singing out holy, holy. Let my life be to you a symphony, singing out holy, holy. All my days, every single breath I breathe, singing out holy. You are holy. For all your goodness is like a well running over. Oh, my soul, it sings for you. For all your goodness, I will love you forever. All my songs I sing for you. Yes, all my songs I sing for you. Yeah, all my songs I sing for you.
Amen. Amen. What an amazing week. What an amazing time with our teenagers. There was a time years ago when I was a youth minister and we had a group that was this close to the Lord. And they did some wonderful things as they grew into adulthood. They did some wonderful things in the ministry. And I'm just grateful for these kids because I've known a lot of them since they were, very young. And I'm grateful to see them and thankful to see them grow and mature in such a way. To where when they get back from camp, it's not all about having the fun. It's about how close they got to each other and how close they got to the Lord. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless. It was an amazing day. an amazing day. Yesterday when we started kind of putting together, I thought, well, we'll have a couple of kids that want to get up there and sing. And we might have a few more that give testimonies, we encourage them with some of the adults. I never thought we'd have this response. And so I thank the Lord for that. I really do. God bless you.